Hi, Ian Newton here again. I'd like to talk to you about bacteria, and mostly about good bacteria in the digestive system, what we call the gut biome. Basically, that refers to the environment within your digestion, the bacterial content. So we have good bacteria and bad bacteria, and what's considered bad bacteria even has a role. It's all about the ratios. We need a small amount of the good bacteria. But the trouble is when we have things like unnecessary antibiotics, for example, well, the good bacteria get decimated, the bad bacteria run amok in your digestion, causing inflammation, causing a whole host of health problems. So the first thing I'd say is that if you go to the doctor and the doctor isn't keen to prescribe antibiotics, don't force the issue, because they know antibiotics do not work for viral problems, and they don't work for all bacterial problems. There are some bacteria that respond to antibiotics and some that don't. So it's very common for people to insist on antibiotics because they feel they need them, but a single course of antibiotics can take several months for your gut to recover fully. So you don't want to put yourself in this situation, especially if you're unwell to start with. If you've got any inflammatory problems, autoimmune problems, definitely don't want to upset the digestion. Now, there's a number of things you can do to improve the gut biome, and we hear of what are called prebiotics, probiotics. Well, basically, prebiotics are the things that could cause the formation of good bacteria. It's what the bacteria feeds on, and the best way to do that is lots of different vegetables. And so we have a big variety of fibrous-y vegetables in our diet. That's really good. And we have the probiotics, certain foods that contain active bacteria, and there could be your good quality yogurts and kefir, things like kimchi and sauerkraut. Now, if you're buying kimchi or sauerkraut, if it's pasteurized, it's probably killed most of the good bacteria. You can also buy supplements. Here's the thing, and I didn't think about it until it was pointed out to me by an expert in the field, that if your probiotics have to be refrigerated, they're probably no use, because if they can't live at room temperature, how on earth are they going to survive going through your stomach? Important point. So let's look at why this happens in the stomach, what's going on. So you've got a small intestine, and it's winding all over the place. Basically, if you just looked at the lining of the small intestine, and that's, say, the tube, and in a sense your whole digestion is part of your outside environment, because from top to bottom it's a transit point that foods and so forth can come in contact with. So it can be disrupted, and in here the lining is like that, and it's got all these little spikes in it, because what this does is increases the surface area for absorption. And on there, if you can see that, there are millions of these little things, these little spikes, and they're called villi. And the villi again increase surface area and help with absorption, very important, but they get damaged. And they get damaged, one of the things that really adheres to these that I've seen over the years is gluten. So I would do tests for people when they come in to see me, and we add a urine sample to various chemicals, and it comes out as a certain colour. And the people who had celiac disease always had a clear test. They didn't have gluten. So that told me a lot about gluten. We have to get this all in good shape, and the bacteria residing within your digestion. We want to build that bacteria. We want that bacteria to have a positive effect, because how we feel is determined by the type of bacteria in our gut. Our emotions, because there's a connection between even creating neurotransmitters in the brain and the gut. And the state of the gut, if this is really, really healthy, So, and by going no grains and no sugars and getting rid of the processed foods, we allow this to be healthy. We allow the villi to bounce back. The villi get covered in gunk, literally. They get worn down, they get damaged. And by having a good diet, we give them a good chance. Now, in a study, what they showed was just a single meal from a fast food with golden arches was enough to disrupt this for 2 weeks. What we have here is when this is damaged, you have things that come in here like proteins or partially digested proteins, and they end up passing in here, and your immune system has to inspect them, and you end up with some sort of inflammatory reaction. And that's not what we want. Your immune system doesn't like that. But when this is really healthy, nothing would pass through there unless it was properly digested. So proteins get first digested in the mouth. It starts just with the saliva. Then in your stomach, the hydrochloric acid and various enzymes breaks your proteins from a solid chunk. If you might say you eat a steak, and you break it down to what we call peptide chains of amino acids all linked together. And then it comes into the small intestine, and each of those peptide chains are broken into single amino acids, and they get absorbed. Amino acids go into a pool in the body, and they're called upon to do things like reconstruct muscle, or make a blood vessel, create a white blood cell or a red blood cell, and many, many roles. All of these things happen properly in our body and happen well if the state of the digestion is healthy, and it's much healthier when you're not filling it full of foods that really stress it, and also when the gut bacteria are there in good amounts. So only have your antibiotics when you absolutely have to. Eat foods like kimchi and sauerkraut and a variety of veggies. One that's very, very good is leeks. The kind of fiber in there. The good bacteria love to feed on these foods. You see, now they will grow. And plus, if you wish, you can take supplements. Use a supplement that doesn't have to be refrigerated. And if you see a couple of 2 or 3 different supplements in a line, in a range of products, perhaps take different ones for a few weeks each one, so you're getting different bacteria. It's a relatively simple process to re-establish the gut biome. It's highly useful to do so, and it's a relatively simple process to do this, to get this back on track, to have your digestion being healthier than it was. All of this leads to a healthier you. All of this allows you to reach the weight you want to reach, to have less pain, to be able to sleep better, to be a healthier person. So have a think about that. You don't have to become an expert in the gut. Just follow the program and start to think about some of these foods. And elsewhere in the program, I will start talking about how to make kimchi. So keep an eye out for a video to that effect at some stage. As I record this, I'm making my first batch of kimchi, and I want to get it just right before I pass those instructions on to you. Thank you. I'm Ian Newton, and I wish you vibrant health.